you addressed this. For example, when you talked about Sanskrit and the way the sacredness is being taken out of Sanskrit, which actually makes me also, I mean, at a very personal level, I feel the Sanskrit which comes from, which gets rooted through that direction, it's a very, only at intellectual Sanskrit, there's no divinity in, you cannot feel the divinity in that. So I think that point was also very well brought out.
Yeah, I'll give you an analogy. Many years ago when there was a tsunami in 2005, so we sponsored one of the chatrales with the Aim for Seva, which is run by Swami Dayanand Saraswati, his organization. So we sponsored a chatrale for Nagapattinam village, which was affected. So I went there with a camera crew and did a documentary. Went to Swamiji's Annaikatti, we went to Manjukuti, all his villages, and we did and the boats he was building. So as part of that, we went to Mahabalipuram, and you have these great carvings, Now these carvings are sacred. The difference is very interesting. When a functioning murti, which has you've done pran pratishtha, this is deity, this is living sacred deity, is taken over by archaeological survey, which is a secular body. They do not allow the person to worship. They don't allow someone to come and do any, because that's wrong. You know that. Inside the Shingeri Mutt, the deity of the goddess is an archaeological site. And therefore you're not allowed to do puja there, right? They did not allow. But on the side they've made a little thing, you can do puja there and you can pretend you're doing it here. But you're not allowed to do that because that is under the control of the archaeological site. So there was this poor, humble old man in Mahabalipuram. In the middle of the night, we were there with the camera crew. We saw this guy with some candles and he was doing his puja. So I said, please interpret what he's saying. And this is on a video we have posted in Arshvidya Gurukulam website, Aim for Seva. It's very interesting. He said 4 or 5 generations, his family, they have been doing this. Since the archaeological survey took it over, they do it kind of secretly. But they are the pujaris of this, and he thinks it is his obligation, his dharma to do this. Whether he goes to jail or not, he's going to do it. I was so moved that, and now you see, this is the problem. The turning archaeology is killing the sacred. Now, maybe the archaeologist will praise how beautiful. His way of praising, you should not say, wow, he respects my culture. He's actually killed the culture. It's a dead body. He's praising. It's like somebody says, you're dead, but we make a thing out of you and put it there and we'll praise it. So he's praising the quality of painting, the nice paint, and look at the fine things and that. He'll point out all those good technology aspect of the carving, but it is not sacred. And sacred is banned, in fact. This is a huge problem. This is exactly what is happening to Sanskrit. It's beautiful poetry. It's got nice, characters, but sacredness is out. And this is why I'm pointing it out, and they don't like it because it's such a subtle problem and they've fooled our people for too long. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Arun. I am an alumni from IIT Madras. So I have 2 or 3 comments. The first one was about the oral tradition. If you look at the Wikipedia webpage of Vedic chanting, I think UNESCO has assigned a status of it is given a heritage status by the UNESCO. So I think even if the Westerners, academicians, they attack the Vedic chanting, even the UNESCO itself has given a heritage status. That is very important.
But let me tell you, this is an example of praising something. Westerners don't deny that it's great. The allegation is not about whether it's beautiful and all that stuff. Chanting is done. But chanting can also be that it has really got no legitimacy as a process that claims to be a process that produces some effect. Vedic chanting is a chanting of Shruti that affects your consciousness. It produces a certain effect. I can appreciate it like the archaeologist appreciating the painting or something in a purely secular way. So the question is not whether they appreciate Vedic chanting, whether this word heritage includes the sacredness as a legitimacy of that tradition. That is a fine tuning you have to look at.
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise, you're also just, often our government, all the governments, they fall short of the sacredness of our claim. The yoga, when there was an International Yoga Day, the video or the description that was spread out unofficially, I don't know how many of you know this, did not have the sacredness. The link with, and it did not have Om. It did not have the Vedic link. People just went out angry.
Yeah.
In my e-group, people went out and said this is complete sellout. Our government doing it. It's better not to have a yoga day than to authorize, make it authoritative that this secularized yoga is the legitimate one. If the Indian government does it, then it will become the standard. And then there was a lot of back and forth. And then the government said, no, we are going to have Om. So, it means that there's always this, we are always kind of at the edge of losing this sacredness. Even our own people find that it is baggage or it's some kind of embarrassment, but we have to be very clear about this. There is cognitive science where they're looking at chants, they're looking at the effect on the mind, they are looking at meditation. These are not just empirical studies in neuroscience, which are very positive, very interesting, but also theoretical models being built about consciousness. The Hindu meditators, Buddhist meditators are highly sought after in these kind of researches because that they are able to produce states of consciousness that neuroscience a few years ago didn't know were even possible. So the link of sacredness to higher states of consciousness and effects on disease, effects on all kinds of neurological conditions is becoming more and more studied. I would like our people to study it and constantly make sure in the papers they publish they give the Vedic references. And it should not be that subject 3, subject number 7 produced this and subject number 12 through 15 produced that, like they are some kind of anonymous people. Well, who are they? They are Vedic people. They're performing a particular kind of mantra. That ought to be mentioned. But often in the clinical studies that are being published, some of them getting huge recognition, the Vedic origins of this is not being mentioned. So yes, our meditation tradition is doing very well. UN will do this and some guys will get Nobel Prizes. But that does not bring credit back and link back to the Vedic tradition the way I would like it. So my requirement is much more serious and much more demanding than what these kind of recognitions are giving.
Just a comment on that. I think in July, in the Journal of Neurology, one paper was published which studied the brain structure of the people who have learned Vedic chanting. And they actually found that the brain structure of these people is different from what is the normal structure. So there is some upcoming evidence on that.
Yes.
Right. My second comment was on
the people who've done the maximum in this are Dalai Lama's people. Dalai Lama's people have worked a lot on establishing their style, and Maharishi's people have done a lot. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's people have done a lot of this kind of research. But what is happening is that their research is often being considered as biased, it's religion and whatnot.
No, they have used CAT scans to find the brain structure, actual structure. The physical, they find physical changes in the brain, which is much different. I mean, they find more white matter and gray matter. And
so some of these studies started in the 60s and 70s with Maharishi people, Maharishi University, and they started this whole research on the effects of meditation, the measurable physical, material, biological effects of meditation. Without any doubt, they pioneered this whole area, and it was considered some kind of biased stuff. Okay. And a Harvard guy called Herb Benson. Herb Benson is a Harvard man. He's now in his 90s. He learned transcendental meditation, and he then took the same technique, developed his own look-alike, did not credit the Maharishi movement, and he called it the relaxation response. And he started teaching undergraduates the relaxation response, replicating all the studies that Maharishi was doing in his own way without mentioning anything about Vedic stuff, became very, very famous, and established all these studies as some kind of a secular meditation going on.